And we begin in Kenya, where the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission has put off repeat voting in volatile countries of Western Kenya. The Electoral Commission Chairperson Wafula Chebukati cites security concerns. He says persistent insecurity has made it dangerous for staff. Polls failed to open on Thursday after protests by opposition supporters. The affected areas include Homa Bay, Kisumu, Migori and Siaya, all in the opposition stronghold of Western Kenya. Meanwhile, results continue to trickle in as electoral officials across the country work to tally the ballots cast. Tallies from local media show President Uhuru Kenyatta having garnered about 96% of the votes cast. Well, let's get more details and insights from CGTN's Robert Nigila, who's joining us live from the National Results Tallying Center in Nairobi, and Susan Mwangeli, who's live for us in Kisumu. Robert, to you first, though, what more can you tell us about the latest developments?
Well, good evening, Beatrice. Well, that announcement, the cancellation or the postponement of the elections on October 28th, Saturday, tomorrow, came about an hour and a half ago. The Electoral Commission Chairman Wafula Chebukati basically saying that the reason for that is they had received a detailed debrief from their staff in those 4 counties. Some of them, he says, had been tortured, some kidnapped, and their families even harassed. So he says this level of intimidation just makes it impossible to hold any elections in those 4 counties, saying that the atmosphere in those counties is just not conducive enough to hold any poll at this particular date. And he says that he will announce at a later date when they will have an election there. Now, of these 4 counties, all of them in opposition strongholds, like you've said, hold about just over 3,300 polling stations or thereabout, and we're talking about 1.2, 1.3 million registered voters. However, the tallying of results will continue because the votes from those particular 4 counties are not enough to have an impact on this particular result. So it continues. It will be announced at a later date. As we speak at this particular moment, the Electoral Commission has given out results from 38 constituencies out of 291. So it does appear that it's going to be a very, very long night and into tomorrow as well. Now, the Electoral Commission has at least 7 days in which to announce the final results. We expect that to happen at some point late into the weekend, Sunday or early next week. Now, immediately after the final results have been announced, then there will be another 7-day period before the winner, who is not in doubt, in this case, incumbent President Uhuru Kenyatta, will be sworn in. The reason for those 7 days is to allow for anyone who wants to challenge the election to go to court. Incidentally, I will tell you that already somebody, an activist, Okia Omtate, has already gone to court to challenge this election, saying that it is illegal in the manner that it was conducted and should not have been held at all. So that looks like it will be one of the highlights next week. Beatrice?
Susan, you're in the stronghold of the opposition in Kisumu, where at least the IEBC, the Electoral Commission, has said the repeat election in parts of that vast county will not take place. So how has the news of the postponement been received in that region?
I'll tell you what, Beatrice, in Kisumu, there's been a sigh of relief after that announcement about the cancellation or the postponement of those elections. And a lot of people took to the streets and they were celebrating. And really for them, it is a score because this is what they set out to do, to ensure that there will be no elections in this county. And earlier on, we did see at around 1500 GMT, we had seen tensions rising. We saw roadblocks being mounted because what had gotten out that the IBC will be transporting ballot papers and boxes, but with the help of police officers. So the youths were already setting themselves up to ensure that this does not happen. So this has been a huge relief for many, and some of the ones that we talked to, they say that Mr. Chebukati should not even bother with setting a new date, because for them, they're not going to take part in any elections. There will be no elections in Kisumu until the irreducible minimum reforms are done by the IEBC. But then again, even with that relief, we are still hearing some shots of tear gas canisters being thrown at various crowds. And the thing is, the last few days have seen a lot of violence here in Kisumu, and that has led to tension between police officers and the protesters. And because of that tension, we have a lot of youth provoking the police officers. Wherever they're seen, you'll see a group of youth going there and throwing stones at them, and of course forcing the police to disperse them. And that is the situation that is there. There's a sigh of relief, but then again, given what has been happening today, and I would like to mention that earlier on today, we did see the church leaders and also the political leaders and the business community coming out and condemning the violence that has been witnessed here in Kisumu. They went out to the main hospital where they condoled with the casualties there, and there was a confirmation that we had 3 people who were killed, and they were shot dead, according to these officials. And also they say that there are about 53 people who were nursing various wounds out of the violence there. But generally it is a sigh of relief, so now we just wait and see what next.
Well, Robert, there is an issue that is emerging here, that there were 19 million registered voters, but there are concerns about the apparent low voter turnout and its expected impact on the legitimacy of the winner. What are Kenyans saying?
Absolutely, Beatrice. We've been saying this over the last couple of days, that one of the things we're going to be focusing on in this particular election is the turnout, for the simple reason it was bound to raise questions of illegitimacy. And immediately after voting yesterday, we saw the opposition come out and with claims of an illegitimate election, and the winner would also be an illegitimate president. Now, earlier today, I went out and put that question to some of the residents in Nairobi, and this is what they had to say. A day after Kenyans voted in the rerun presidential election, the Electoral Commission says about 6.5 million registered voters cast their ballots, out of a total of 19 million registered voters. The question we're asking Kenyans today is, do they consider this a legitimate vote? What's your opinion?
I think the election is not legitimate. At least it could have reached 10 million votes and above, voters and above. Otherwise, it seems as if not every Kenyan is comfortable with this election.
Election was 100% yesterday, 100%, and we agree with that.
I would say it is illegitimate because of what happened. If we are 19 million people, then for it to be legitimate, you must have a majority voting.
Those who didn't vote, actually it was their choice. And those who voted, it was their choice. One, it was necessary for the elections to be held yesterday because according to the Supreme Court ruling, the elections should be held within 60 days.
Clearly, opinion is varied and appears based along party lines. But what do Kenyans think is the way forward?
There is what we call silent majority. Let us listen to this silent majority. The Kenyans must come down. Let us agree that there is a problem. And the way forward is, if we are to organize another election, they go to court and they say that, fine, we didn't achieve it, because the court was very clear.
President Kenyatta, as far as I'm concerned, is still the president. The buck still stops at him. He should call the stakeholders and sit down and see where the problem is. And they should not do these side shows.
No, the president should be firm in dealing with the situation. And there is no question that people should carry forward. I don't think there is anything that is threatening the country.
You say the president should be firm. Should he reach out to the opposition, or you don't agree with that?
Well, Raila has already declared national resistance. That is a war against the people of Kenya. So why should he reach somebody like that?
We want to call upon our leaders. We love them. We love Uhuru Kenyatta. We love Raila Odinga. And this is not a matter of both two. They are the ones to drop their differences down and come together, discuss the important issues of the country and give us directions on how to move forward.
Well, Susan, to you in Kisumu, though, just a final and brief question here. We had witnessed the return of calm and sense of normalcy in Kisumu earlier today, as you mentioned there a little bit earlier. Do we expect that to persist moving forward?
Well, for now, we do expect that. But then again, that all depends on the IEBC when they will set that date, if indeed they will set another date for an election to take place. And certainly when that happens, or at least after talking to people here, they do not want any election to take place. So when that election date is announced, we do expect more protests. And yeah, definitely, it's almost like it's a calm before a storm. So that is the case here, and we just wait and see.
All right, Susan Mungeli for us there in Kisumu, and Robert Nagila also joining us from the National Tallying Center in Nairobi.